Hey YouTube, I'm Ross Stewart with Stewart Media Digital. I am here today with the lovely Barbara to talk to you about the Sony G Master 70-200 2.8 lens. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the build quality real quick. It is really stable, really sturdy in the hand. It is a little bit heavy. It's a little over 3 pounds. It is full-time manual focus, which I really like, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The zoom ring also feels really good. It's not super stiff, but I don't feel like it's just gonna bump it. You're not just gonna bump it into the wrong focal length or whatever. It's got a pretty good amount of resistance there. And then on the side over here, you've got the autofocus manual focus switch, the full versus reduced focal range. That's if you know your subject's far away and you don't want it to have trouble hunting, like coming in closer than 3 meters. But the autofocus on cameras now is so good that that's never really been an issue for me. Then you have the image stabilization on and off switch, and then the stabilization modes. This is one is all axis, and two is turning off the panning. So if you know you're going to be panning side to side and you don't want the camera to try to compensate for that, then you can switch it over to 2 and it won't stabilize in the panning motion. So now let's get started. Let's take some shots and see what the lens can do. So first off, I want to talk about the 70-200 focal range. Even if you're not a Sony shooter or you want to go with a different version of this lens, something I really like about the 70-200 focal range for portraits, or really for just about anything else, is the compression you can get by stepping back and zooming in. So first I'm going to get this shot at 70 millimeters, right there, and you can see the background is pretty blurry, and the background doesn't look too bad. But now I'm going to take a few steps back and zoom all the way into 200 and show you what that looks like more zoomed in. So I'm going to try to get that same framing, but at 200, so I do have to step quite a bit back. And then here we go, awesome. So you can tell by those two shots right there that the 200 millimeters, if you can step back, you do have if you do have room to work and you're able to zoom into 200 and get those like full body portraits or close-up portraits. It does really help control your background, make it softer, more pleasing, and if the background's unattractive, you can start to mitigate some of that. So a 70-200 is really versatile, and it can be really useful if you do have room to work, and if you like that style. So let's take some more shots. Let's get some different angles and and keep testing the features. So now I'm staying at 200 millimeters and I'm testing, and now I'm gonna go for a headshot framing. This obviously, we're not doing headshots, but just that sort of like mid chest up headshot framing, and see what we get in terms of the background blur and the sharpness and the subject separation. I have no lights. We do have a nice overcast day, but we are shooting in the middle of the day with no external lights. So let's see what we can get with this lens. I do have it set to 2.8, ISO 200, 1/200th of a second. So let's test that out. Awesome. Nice, yeah, that looks really good. So you can see in these shots we're getting how the background just really falls away. The background turns into nothing, nothing discernible, that is. So I do like this background, I like the setting we're in, but you can see that there's a stop sign over there that's not too aesthetically pleasing. And I could Photoshop that out, but I like to do as much in camera as possible. So really controlling your background with this lens is really great and really doable. All right, so now I'm gonna step in and get that same shot that I got at 200 millimeters at 70 millimeters and show you the difference here. So here, now I'm at 70. And yeah, perfect right there. So you can see with that, at the 70 millimeters, that same a little bit tighter headshot style framing, you get a little bit more of the background. And that may be what you want. That may be, if you're a professional, that may be what your client wants, or if it's at a place you like and actually want to show the background, that can also be really nice. So this lens has a lot of great versatility in that 70 to 200 range and everywhere in between. So let's find another place now where we can check out the bokeh. So it is the middle of the day. Luckily it's overcast, but we found some Christmas lights, so I would like to show you guys what the bokeh looks like when you get that in the background of the shot at the different focal lengths with this particular lens. So here I am, I'm already zoomed into 200, and you can see the bokeh is really, it's really nice. It's really round, and the way it complements the background, the highlights on her face, and the different smooth butteriness of the background looks really good. I think that all works really well together. You can see that the bokeh in the middle is really round, and then as you start to move towards the top, it does become more ovular. That's something that almost all optics have. All the lenses I've tested do that, but this one does it a lot less. You do have some really round bokeh, and the edges are really not hard at all. So that's really great so far. Now I'm gonna step in and get that same kind of look at 70 millimeters and show you how that looks as well. So we're stepping in, we're at a closer focal range. So you can see more of the background, so we do have more bokeh balls, so that's really nice. And honestly, this is still really nice. The bokeh is taking on a little bit of a strange feature. I see some weird rings inside the middle. I don't know what causes that. But this is a little bit more exaggerated. But as you look up into the top left of the shot, you can even see some bokeh forming, some nice spears forming with the leaves and the white poking between the trees in the background there. So that's really nice. I really like the bokeh coming out of this. So now I've got the 50 millimeter 1.4. So let's compare real quick the bokeh and the overall quality of the background blur at on 70 millimeters at 2.8, 200 millimeters at 2.8, and this is a 51.4. So this is going to show more of the background, but the 1.4 aperture may give us at least a different quality of the background blur. So let's take some shots and do some comparing. So first thing you can tell is I am quite a bit closer because it is 50 millimeters instead of a long zoom lens. So to get the same framing, I do have to step in quite a bit. And right off the bat, I can tell there is a good amount of bokeh. The depth of field is really shallow, but you can still pretty well pick out what things are in the background. Like we clearly have a line of trees and a sidewalk and a building with an awning over to the right. So if you do like that look where everything is out of focus, but you can still tell what things are, then a 51.4 is a really great way to go. Just looking at the back of the camera, I can see that the bokeh is really round, and I do really like this lens, but this is a review for another day. I just wanted to show you the comparison real quick. So hopefully this will pick up in the lab right here. I have the focus beep is turned on, so I'd just like to show you how quickly this lens focuses. The focus speed does have something to do with the camera as well, so I have it here on my Sony A7R III, which does have really snappy, responsive focusing. So it may vary from camera to camera, but it also does have a lot to do with the lens. So I'm gonna zoom into 200 millimeters and get relatively close to my model, and we're gonna listen for that confirmation beep. I'm going to focus on her, and then I'm gonna focus on the furthest point behind her, and we'll see how quickly it snaps into focus with that confirmation beep. So let's take a look at it here. So I'm zoomed in pretty close to her face here, and you hear that beep, and then I'm gonna focus behind her, and it just snaps right away. So it's beep, beep, and it's focusing. She is backlit, so it is actually hunting a tiny bit, but if I focus on something with some contrast, it snaps right away. Yeah, that's pretty quick. I will say it is struggling a little bit in the backlight. So here's the beep on her, beep in the background, beep on her. So depending on what in the background I try to focus on, it can be really responsive. If you're focusing on something without a lot of contrast, like for me, it's just we have the blown out sky in the background. It does struggle with that quite a bit, trying to find what to lock on to. But in normal situations, you're not going to be focusing, you're not going to be trying to autofocus on a clear sky, so that's not going to come up too much. But if you are shooting a subject without a lot of contrast, the camera does use a combination of phase detect and contrast-based autofocus, but still, if it doesn't have that contrast, you are going to have trouble focusing on it. And when I'm shooting parties, for example, that does come up. If someone's face has a really bright, like blue party light shining on them, and I try to focus on their face, this lens does hunt a little bit. It's not too bad, and I still usually nail the shot, but it's not as snappy as focusing on someone's face. I am using eye detect autofocus. I have it set to back button autofocus. I use one of these custom buttons in the back to as my face and eye detect autofocus button. So when I do focus on her, it snaps right to that eye, which is also really important. If there's no face in the background, obviously it's snapping to something else. But just so you guys know, this is with back button autofocus with eye detect turned on. So now let's head over and test focusing in backlight situations. So we're gonna head over to this field and we're gonna use the sky and the sun to backlight our subject. So like I said earlier, it is really overcast today, but I'm gonna shoot our model at an upward angle to get the sun right behind her in the shot, so you can see how it focuses, and so we can test the sharpness shooting against bright lights. But something just real quick, a general tip about photography: if you are shooting up at somebody, it's really unflattering if you're close to them, but if you take a few steps back and shoot up at them from a further away angle, then you can get that larger than life feel that you see in a lot of advertising and in fashion modeling. So I'm gonna step back and we're gonna shoot against the sun and see what we can get in terms of the sharpness and the focus and how quickly it focuses. So let's take a look at that. You can see right away, it does get rid of some of the contrast, and we've got a little bit of light leaking in. We've got some weird artifacting shooting into the sun. I do have the lens hood on, which is helping a little bit. So I'm actually gonna take the lens hood off just so we can really test this. Although I do recommend shooting with the lens hood any chance you get. But I use it even indoors because I just like that it protects the front elements of the glass. I don't like those screw-on UV filters. They reduce sharpness. It's just a little bit, but sometimes that little bit can really make a difference. So let's keep going. We got that confirmation beep. Just based off of the back of the camera, I can tell shooting with the sun leaking in right there, we are losing some sharpness. But honestly, it's not too bad. I would still say that this is really, these are really deliverable photos. And it's still looking pretty nice, and it's focusing really quickly. Let's try to, we do have those trees in the background which are keeping it from being a true backlit situation. We just have the sun leaking in. So let's move again to really get nothing but just like white sky in the background, and do these tests again. So again, I really want to test this for you guys, so I'm gonna lay down on the ground to really shoot as much towards the sun as possible, so we can really tell how much it's affecting the sharpness and the autofocus ability. So, and if you are a professional photographer or even a serious hobbyist, get used to laying on the ground. I never thought I would be on the ground so much taking photos professionally. It happens all the time. So, oh, here we are. And there's the sun right behind her. So I am adjusting my exposure just a little bit, and it still focuses on her really quickly, and I'm getting that confirmation beep switching between her and a tree in the background right away, even though they are blown out, and the sun is really right behind her head. So still looking good. perfect. And I'm zooming into 200, and yeah, go ahead and, yeah, perfect right there. Nice. And oh, actually the sun's not even behind her head, it's next to her. It is overcast. You can see it kind of leaking in over that right shoulder. And you can tell that this really isn't washing the photo out nearly as much as I thought it would. So for backlit situations, autofocus, and how much it affects the contrast and the sharpness, I would give this lens a 10 out of 10 so far based on these tests. So another thing I want to mention real quick just about the build of this lens, the tripod collar doesn't come completely off. It spins around and with this knob, and this part of it, the foot of this, does come off, and they're cooperating right now, but these knobs get stuck on my copy all the time, and it can be really, really frustrating if you're trying to turn this thing around for whatever reason. So one little complaint I do have is I wish that they had a slightly better system for these screws. They do get really, really stuck sometimes. So now that we've done a few tests, let's just walk around. We're at a park here in the fall. We've got this overcast light. So let's walk around and see what pictures we can get using this lens. So it's fall, and we've got this kind of orange-yellow tall grass behind her, but on the other side of that is actually a busy street, and you can probably see that in the video right now, but in the photos, because of the compression from the 70 to 200 and the blur, we're getting some really nice shots that that really look like we're just in a field of tall grass, so it's turning out really nice. So I'm gonna move in and take some verticals. Perfect. Nice. Now give it those eyes. Yeah, perfect. Nice. All right, now I'm gonna step back, get some verticals, some full body. So that was our on-location review of the Sony G Master 70 to 200 2.8 lens. Thank you so much to our model Barbara. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you'd like more videos like this or any other type of video relating to photo, video, gear, or technique, please comment in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching.